Oh hey, check it out, Kirby's in 3D now. Cool, nothing could possibly go wrong with that, right? Oh, what's that? That extra dimension is about to play havoc with the pink puffball's first fully 3D outing? Oh boy. For our first glitch, head to the stage through the tunnel, and towards the end you'll encounter the stairs Mouthful mode. Move these particular stairs to the side, spit them out, and then make your way a little further into the stage and find the second set of stairs. Bring this set back to the first and then spit them out where the first set was originally located. Are you still keeping up with me? Finally, inhale the first set again, then position yourself just about halfway off this ledge and then spit them out one last time. The stairs should now fall through the ledge, and during this time, quickly make your way onto the other stairs by the wall. The stairs that fell will now try to spawn inside the other set, and in turn, their collision tries to push the other one out, resulting in them being shot high up into the air, and Kirby along with them. You can get some insane airtime with this and ride them high into the sky, but apart from that, there sadly isn't too much you can do with this. If you move Kirby, you'll fall off the stairs, and you'll be able to move around for a short time, but the second Kirby falls below the screen, he'll be placed back down to the ground, and things sadly return to normal. Well, except for the stairs, they're never coming back. In the stage Scale the Summit, there's a really simple out-of-bounds glitch you can perform. In this gliding section, you'll see this arch rock formation that if you carefully aim upwards towards, you'll find that Kirby can actually go right through the rocks. Now if you keep flying upwards, you'll eventually fly way above the normal stage area. It may take an attempt or two, because if you hit the rocks wrong, you'll get sent back to the start of the gliding section, but you can always try again until you get it right. If you fly for long enough, you'll be so far out of bounds, all the geometry disappears except for the ocean. You'll also see that the game no longer clears the graphics buffer, giving you this afterimage effect. Some of you may remember we've seen this same effect in Super Mario 3D World. Now, I tried to make it beyond this plane of water below, but after about 10 minutes, I still hadn't reached the edge, so I'm guessing the water is actually parented to Kirby, which means he can never actually move beyond it because, well, it's kind of attached to him. At least that is my guess. I've no idea. I didn't make this game. Anyway, if you ditch in the water, you'll be respawned back into the stage to carry on as normal, which is, you know, how you should be playing the game, not the thing I just did. Anyway, moving on, heading to the abandoned beach, there's an incredibly easy mini-boss you can skip. You see how I skipped to that? I skipped right to that. Segue. In the second area, you'll encounter Wild Bonkers, which can be a short fight casually, but in a speedrun, it's completely skipped. Just before the fight arena, there's a tree that Kirby is able to stand on certain parts, giving you the extra height needed to clear an invisible wall. Climbing to the top of the tree and then jumping as high as possible, repeatedly press jump to float over this invisible wall, placing you outside the boundaries of the fight and letting you skip, even triggering Wild Bonkers. And skipped just like that. Super simple and incredibly convenient in a hurry. One of the more peculiar glitches is one we probably should have expected from this kind of game with multiple different powers and player states, and it's a glitch called Mouthful storage. Simply put, if Kirby takes damage on the same frame as he starts to inhale a Mouthful mode object, that state is then stored until you next press the B button. The Mouthful mode you inhaled will then activate despite Kirby's location in relation to where you actually began inhaling it. It can even be stored when Kirby goes through a door into another section of a stage or when using a warp star, and this means you're able to take Mouthful modes to places the developers never intended, which is always interesting, but sadly not particularly useful. But you know, it's really easy to pull off, so why not try it out anyways? With Mouthful storage, you could see that it's possible to take Mouthful modes to warp stars, which in turn cannot use the warp star unless it's jumped at. But in the stage Wastes Where Life Began, it's possible to get up to a warp star without using Mouthful storage at all. In this section with Ring Mouth, you can carefully jump on this tree and it'll give you enough height to reach the warp star platform. There's really no utility to this, it just looks silly, and who doesn't like silly glitches, right? In the stage Tropical Terror, you're tasked with taking down Tropic Woods, but not before a 12-second cutscene interjects. And naturally, speedrunners are going to want to save those 12 seconds, and thankfully there's a really simple glitch that helps achieve that. Once you leave the ladder to go up to Tropic Woods, bank to the right and then stand around here here next to this fence post and then hold down either ZL or ZR to crouch guard. Now flick up on the control stick, immediately followed by holding right, and if you're successful, the boss should begin without having to watch the cutscene. Another benefit of this skip is you can beat this boss with a copy ability and still complete the mission clear without using a copy ability for some reason. Which is a bonus, as in 100% runs, it's much faster to beat Tropic Woods with an ability like Fire. You'll also be able to take damage and still complete that mission too. Not only are the missions broken by doing this skip, but also the gold cage of Waddle Dees never gets taken away during the cutscene, and so remains there for the whole fight. And then a second golden cage arrives once you defeat Tropic Woods, which is pretty amusingly broken. So all in all, this skip is really cool, easy, and useful too. There's a strange out of bounds in Abandoned Beach which seems specific to this one doorway in the game. You can get to this doorway by finding a secret switch high on a cliff, and going through this door will put you in this area. Once in this part of the stage, if you drop your ability just as you go through this door, the load zone won't actually trigger and Kirby will instead end up out of bounds. Now you can swim around underneath this part of the stage and witness all the makings of it, and also see the camera bug out as it tries to track you. And once you've had your fun, it's incredibly easy to reach the load zone and get things back to normal. You know, it's odd how, as far as I know, and I'm sure I might be wrong, this is the only doorway that behaves this way. Very weird, but very cool. Okay, one of the most fun and useful glitches in the game take advantage of the fire and hammer abilities, but first we'll take a look at the fire ability version. With any of the fire abilities, jump and then float by holding the A button until Kirby is exhausted, and then press the B button to fall towards the ground, and then press B again briefly just as Kirby is about to touch the ground, and then mash the A button. Mashing the A button isn't necessary, but unless you have perfect timing, this is going to make this much easier to get the desired result. If successful, you'll perform a glitch called the Fire Super Jump, and Kirby should shoot up into the air, giving you way more height than is ever intended. Now, this is fun and everything, but the Fire Super Jump is pretty lacking compared to the hammer variant of this glitch, the Hammer Super Jump. And thankfully, this version of the glitch is similar in execution to the Fire Super Jump, but actually way easier. Again, with any of the hammer abilities, jump and float by holding the A button, then once Kirby is exhausted, press B to puff and fall to the ground, and then press and hold B again to perform the hammer spin attack. And once the hammer hits the ground, press A and Kirby should once again shoot up into the air. Now, depending on the timing of your A button press, you'll get slightly different results. Press too early and nothing will happen, and press too late and you'll gain a lot less height. This glitch is kinda lenient, however, so practice and you'll find it's actually pretty easy. Okay, so the big question, what exactly can we do with this glitch? Well, it's mostly used for getting out of bounds. Basically, you can get out of bounds anywhere in the game that doesn't have incredibly high invisible walls or an invisible ceiling, which would obviously prevent you from going any higher. So as you can imagine, this really opens up the game to out of bounds exploration, so go nuts, see what you can find. But in terms of useful things, here's a few examples. In Waddle Dee Town, you can use a hammer super jump to get into the Coliseum from out of bounds by floating underneath this invisible wall, and then entering the load zone from the other side, which causes Kirby to enter a glitched version of the Meta Knight Cup. In this glitched state, you'll only fight a Wild Frosty and a Wild Bonkers, which can be done relatively quickly. Well, quicker than is intended anyway. I don't think the developers had 26 seconds in mind when they made this part of the game. This time doesn't get recorded, however, but you can still get rare stones, so this is one speedy way to farm them. In attempting to get into the Coliseum this way, if you happen to fall out of bounds, don't worry, as underneath Waddle Dee Town is a huge body of water you can explore. And to get back into the town proper, find these rocks to the south of the map and perform another hammer super jump to get enough height to get you into the town again. The hammer super jump can also get you out of bounds during boss fights too, like here with Gorimondo. Surprisingly, there's a ton of floor outside the boss fight arena that can be walked on, but it's limited to the sidewalks. Trying to walk on the road will make Kirby respawn to the last solid ground you walked on, but there's quite a bit of space to explore out here, and I always love this kind of out of bounds. But I think it's time to talk about the best use of the hammer super jump glitch, and that's to skip the boss fight with Leongar. Now, fair warning, warning, this is not exactly easy, but if you're up for a challenge and maybe even want to speedrun the game, it's worth knowing. When the fight with Leongar first begins, you have a small window of time to stand on this tile, and then you need to perform the hammer super jump, but this one needs to be frame perfect to get the most amount of height. This means timing that A button press on the frame where the hammer hits the ground and bulges, which can be hard to see with everything going on, and in this room in particular, there's a bit of lag, so that makes it even more difficult. If you don't get quite enough height, you'll most likely get stuck in the ceiling, in which case you'll then respawn back into the boss room to possibly try the hammer super jump once again. However, if you manage to get enough height to be way above this room, then you need to hold down on the control stick while still floating to get completely outside the boundary of this environment. The camera is incredibly close to you, limiting your spatial understanding, but to illustrate what's going on, the room looks like this from way outside. You're here when you first end up out of bounds, and you need to make this downward and then curved movement to make it to a load zone on the floor below the one you begin the boss fight on. So once you get clear of the level structure, you can then begin floating downwards and guiding Kirby to the right. If the camera starts to look like this, you're close to the load zone, but you may not know exactly where Kirby is. So now try and make your way into this room that you see here, and Kirby will most likely end up going through the load zone by accident. If so, congratulations, you've skipped fighting Leongar and performed one of the hardest skips in the game. But now it's time for the ultimate challenge. Play through the Ultimate Cup Z all the way to Chaos Elfilis, which can be hard enough, but if you perform the hammer super jump during Elfilis' orb form, float out of bounds and fall, or just leave the main area, and another Chaos Elfilis will spawn. This now means you're fighting two of the hardest final bosses in the game at the same time, but it doesn't end there. Provided you can reach the orb form a second time, you can do this glitch again and spawn yet another Elfilis. As you'd expect, if you defeat one of them, the game proceeds as normal, cutscenes and all, but if you're up for a challenge, this is one way to do it. And people say Kirby games are easy. But there you have it, some pretty wild glitches in Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Huge thanks to all the Patreon supporters and everybody who subscribes to the channel. Love you guys. Catch you in the next episode.